So the first question is, can you say something about the situation on gender identity in your country? For instance, is there self-ID, etc.?
Well, let me first say that Slovakia is in Eastern Europe. We are south of Poland and north from Hungary. So a lot of people don't know us, so that's why I always like to introduce the country as well. We were part of Czechoslovakia before, so that's probably how you know us. When you say Eastern Europe, people usually think that in terms of gender identity, there's not much going on, that we're more or less okay here because we're mostly conservative, and like everyone here, every woman here is a trad wife, like a traditional wife, and stuff like that. And people can be sometimes quite ignorant about us, let's face it. So it's not really true, of course. I mean, we are kind of in between two patriarchies, very, very like squeezed between them, because we have the patriarchy East, so the Russian influence, which wants to really like make us into the traditional wives who just have children all the time and stuff. And that's why also there's now move to abolish abortion in my country. And also the patriarchy West is coming in the form of gender identity. So the discussion about gender identity is here. We don't have the laws much, like there's, in terms of law, you can change your ID, like your sex on your documents, only when you become sterilized. So when you're like, you go through some sort of sex reassignment surgery. And this is the thing that the trans activists are very mad about. They say that it's a human rights violation. And there was actually a big discussion about this last week in the parliament, because our public defender of rights was presented her annual report. And a part of that was, she was saying that sterilizations of trans people are human rights violations. And then we also, that's another very, very bad thing that we have, is we have an actual fascist party in the parliament. They are not like fascist, like it has become a meaningless word, more or less, in the world. Like you say, everyone is fascist, who you don't agree with. But these people are actually like ex-fascists. Like they used to, 10 years ago, they used to march in Nazi uniforms and stuff. So like really, really weird people. So, and these people are very much opposed to all the gender identity stuff, and they were very vocal about it. And one of the guys who is in the party was saying that trans people are mutants, that they are perverse, and like stuff like that. And so then even some conservative MPs started to saying that they're very sorry that the transgender people had to hear this, blah, blah, blah. So I think these fascist guys are actually doing the biggest service to the transgender community in Slovakia, because everything that they oppose gets kind of like blindly accepted by the liberals. So, like for example, for me to now, when the fascists have spoken against gender identity, if I speak against gender identity, I will be immediately labeled a fascist as well.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I was introduced as Bettina from the Lesbian Strength March and Lesbians Under Lockdown, but anything I say here, I say in a purely personal capacity, and it's sort of my own words. I don't have a whole, I'm going to say a short bit on this, but I haven't got a lot to say, because we've already heard a lot of panelists from the UK in the last few weeks who have spoken about this and who are more up on the intricacies of the laws and where we go. But I feel, while this is probably similar in a lot of countries, it's a topic that's this is a topic that's very controversial and debated amongst feminists and the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, alphabet soup community and politically active person. It's not something that the average person in this country really cares or knows that much about. In 2018, I was doing some campaigning with an organization in the UK called Fair Play for Women in various places around North London as regards to the UK, who wanted to change the existing Gender Recognition Act and make self-ID sort of easier. And we were campaigning on the high streets, in the shopping centres, and a lot of people just looked at us stared at us blankly and didn't really know what we were talking about, because the average person hadn't really thought about this and the issues, because I think a lot of people have sort of more pressing things, you know, the average person, that's on their agenda, like the housing crisis or other things.
Basically, I feel like Kara Dansky, who was also a panelist, discussed what the situation is like in terms of the law. I see gender self-ID playing out as like a state religion in the public schools in my town, especially, but I hear that this is nationwide. They teach transgenderism from a very young age in the public schools. And there's a court battle going on right now, actually, in Madison, between the Madison Metropolitan School District, the public school district of my city, and that's enforcing trans education and ideology in the schools, and then a group of parents who are suing because their children are transing at school, and the school authorities are telling them that they don't have to tell their parents, or the parents don't have to be involved at all in their transitioning at school. And so that's a court battle that's going on right now around gender self-ID in Madison, my city. But what I'd really like to talk about is an opportunity that I see for us as activists, because everybody that's here has signed on to the declaration, which I think we'd all agree has created this tidal wave of excitement and activity and meetings and innovation, and it's been fantastic. And so, unrelated to me or any of the other top TERFs in the USA, the Georgia Green Party decided to sign on to the declaration. And so of course all hell broke loose, within the Green Party, and a man who identifies as trans, and you should watch these videos. I'm telling you, they are absolutely, oh my gosh, over the top. He's bald, and then he has like all this eye makeup on and blue lipstick, and then he has like this microphone that comes into his mouth, and he's wearing earrings and like a low cut shirt, and he's a pronoun police, and anyway, this is in the Green Party USA, and this is I don't want to say that it's this single man he's sort of the face of it, right? He's the representative for the Lavender Caucus, which is the LGBTQ WTF caucus within the Green Party. I have an appeal. I think this is an opportunity for us as activists to support the Georgia Green Party by, if you live in the US, research your local Green Party, consider joining, and then we can have this grassroots effort. That's what they did in Georgia. Like, I've been an investigative reporter with WLRN about this situation in the Green Party USA and in Georgia, and I've discovered that there was a lot of groundwork that was laid before the Georgia Green Party was ready to sign the declaration. And it's fascinating to me that I didn't even know about that. That's what I mean about being like a top TERF, and I didn't even know that was happening, and it's so exciting. And so they got all of their ducks in a row, which is why they can be so steadfast. But now that they're publicly out with us, I think we can use the party politics in America as a vehicle to state by state get Green parties to sign on to the declaration that will sweep the country by, what is that called? Like some sort of like firestorm across America, feminists rising, you know, in the Green Party, like a phoenix rising up from the ash.
The UK, the Green Party is reasonably 50-50 split. So that's the place where quite a few women are reporting back there's a chance for us to sort of make ground there compared to other parties.
Apart from you know, all the reputation India has had with regards to its population, we are also extremely divided as a country. While the center sits in Delhi and there's all kinds of fascist politics going on, we have a prime minister that has single-handedly executed communal violence and a genocide of sort. So the states barely have anything to do when it comes to center-imposed regulations, but there are a few things that the state can intervene and make their own decisions for the state, which can be completely contrary to the center. With regards to self-ID, there was a trans bill that was passed in 2019, and amidst a lot of confusion, resistance, protest, that it is a dehumanizing act that was passed, and that the center needs to, you know, sort of reconsider it, and so on and so forth. The primary concern that people had was that self-ID in itself was not possible, definitely not possible pre-op. So what the trans bill did was you can sort of apply for a third gender ID card, and if you are still inclined to it, then you will have to go through the complete sex reassignment surgery for a group of experts to verify, which sounds dehumanizing, which a group of experts to verify, and then you will be sort of given a ID card of the sex that you desire to be labeled as. So that's the trans bill, and there's still a lot of protest going on. Because we're a conservative nation, it was a surprise that this amount of you know, privileges were bestowed, because it wouldn't have been possible without the state's intervention. Homosexuality became legal only in 2018. So within on the one hand, you have the Twitter young teen woke pronoun wearing, you know, youngsters, wokesters, whatever you want to call it, who are totally lost in everything, who sort of come on to you and abuse you with words you've never heard before if you say something like men shouldn't be in women's sports. On the one hand, that there's that, and on the other hand, I've noticed that we are also divided in terms of caste and class. So there's a significant percentage of India's population that really couldn't care a damn about the self-ID politics, because there's a lot more pressing issues that needs to be addressed, especially at the moment where there are migrants who are so far away from their homes, women delivering babies on the way where they're walking thousands of kilometers to get to their house by foot. So while those being the situation, there is also this trans rights activist who have sort of made a request to the Home Ministry asking for special privileges for trans identified sex workers to be given a certain amount of sum, because they have been stripped off of their livelihood, which is basically prostitution, because it's contact, and they're not allowed, and therefore they're sort of positing it as grievous as the life of a migrant woman that is probably delivering on the way to her home. And that's what's bothering me. It is not to say that their situation is horrible and they are not treated well and they are abused by the people. All of that aside, when this petition was floated and signed by pretty much every liberal there is in the country, it sort of broke my heart, because we've been fighting for women's rights for so long, and suddenly that sort of took a back step of sort.